Introduction. In one of the most spellbinding accounts of men who go down to the sea in ships, the modern reader is given a seat in the whaleboat of Owen Chase as he and his fellow crew and their captain make their way in 3 boats after the wreckage of the whaleship Essex. The account of how the Essex was wrecked inspired the infamous book Moby Dick and countless movies, including the newest, In the Heart of the Sea. The perils of sea, storms, nefarious intent of evil men, and fate combine to bring an end to a long whaling voyage, typically hard and grueling enough without suffering an attack by a furious and vengeful sperm whale. The story, told in a first-person narrative by Owen Chase, the first mate of the Essex, was first published in 1821 and served to inspire Herman Melville to write his fictional book of the attack by the whale. The perseverance and determination of the crew, mate, and captain to use each and every tool and morsel available to them in salvage from the wrecked Essex to outfit their flimsy whaleboats for a voyage of more than 2,500 miles back to the South American coast is remarkable in many ways. Every ounce of energy and civility rapidly evaporated after 2 months at sea. The story not told by Melville may be the best part, though the attack by the whale is still impressive if one imagines being on the small ship as the Leviathan repeatedly bashes in the hull. In addition to the stirring account by Owen Chase are parts of the account by cabin boy Thomas Nickerson. Nickerson returned to the seas on whale ships following the Essex shipwreck, one of just a few known to have been sunk by a whale. After he retired to running a boarding house in Nantucket was when Nickerson finally wrote his account of the Essex and the plight of the crew. Nickerson only put pen to paper when challenged by a visiting author. When the writer, Leon Lewis, escaping from his creditors, became acquainted with Nickerson, he encouraged him to write down his tale of the incredible shipwreck of the whaleship Essex. Nickerson did so and entrusted the manuscript to the erstwhile writer, who promised to get it published and then fled to England. Over 100 years later, the Nickerson account, the loss of the ship Essex, sunk by a whale and the ordeal of the crew in open boats, was discovered in an old trunk and authenticated by the Nantucket Historical Association and published in 1984, a century after Nickerson wrote it. Nickerson's story told of the incredible attack of the Essex while 2 of the whaleboats were in hunt to harpoon their prey. The first attack crashed the vessel and rocked it hard. Then Nickerson wrote that the monster whale turned and rammed the Essex again, causing it to heave, break apart, and sink. The crew began their search for land and eventually found a small island, which was rather poor in resources. The sailors, with the exception of 3 men who decided to stay on the island, left in search of a better island, the mainland, or perhaps a ship. Chase described how during the 90-day journey to the coast of Chile, the men were forced to eat one of their fellow sailors who had died. Nickerson was less than specific about the act of cannibalism and was on the same whaling boat with Chase. The other boat, commanded by Captain Pollard, had but 4 men left alive and too weak to continue. Finally, they decided to draw lots to determine who would have to be shot so that the others could live. The young cousin of the captain was the loser in that drawing and was killed. Only 8 of the crew of 20 survived. It was later revealed that the 3 men who stayed behind on the island were rescued, and 2 of the boats made it to Chile. The tale that they told, mainly through Chase's account, laid the basis for one of the greatest sea stories ever in print or the movies, Moby Dick. This account of portions of Nickerson's storytelling and of Chase's account will lend the modern reader a background which will enrich the first or next reading of Melville's great adventure. There were to be at least 3 additional ships attacked by sperm whales, including the ship Pocahontas of Tisbury in 1850, the ship Anne Alexander of New Bedford in 1851, and the bark Kathleen of New Bedford in 1902, according to the New Bedford Whaling Museum. But it was the attack of the whale on the Essex that grew the true whale of a story into one of the world's most famous legends. The Chase and Nickerson sagas are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to whale ships and men wrecked and killed by whales. The reason the wreck of the whaleship Essex became famous and now into a premier Hollywood movie is for the meeting between Chase and Herman Melville. Melville's Moby Dick is one of the all-time classics of sea sagas and human nature, even without the complete story of the survivors of the Essex. For those who have been lost in a vast desert, abandoned in a mountaintop as a result of a plane crash, or lost in a jungle, survival calls upon the soul to do unusual things, as told by both Chase and Nickerson. As primary sources for such accounts, contemporary newspaper reports over the last 150 years are cited and provided herein. These accounts are not provided from the viewpoint of being comprehensive and complete, but only as a glimpse at the days of whaling and the perils for those who went to sea with a view to digging out the facts of whales attacking ships. One news account in 1851 that reports on a ship wrecked by a monster whale mentions the wreck of the Essex as another example of vicious attacks on ships by whale. The reader may have arrived here due to the publicity over the release of In the Heart of the Sea, which was inspired by the Owen Chase account. However, it is hoped that the reader will leave this book with a much better understanding of the development of whaling and the risks assumed by those who chased whales for a living. Monster whales attacking ships? Yes, harrowing and deadly, but apparently not that rare. Keep this in mind when you decide to book a sightseeing boat for viewing whales. Thank you for reading. Ken Rossignol, Huggins Point Editors.